Hey, good morning to you and happy football season from the Out of Bounds show and our team. We love that you're going to hang out with us this football season. High school, college, NFL, cannot wait. And then just all the experiences, hanging out with friends, tailgating, watching games at your house, good food, and good times. And celebrating. Well, some will celebrate more than others. Some are trying to celebrate more, like the Mississippi State football program, which has been an absolute disaster post Dan Mullen. And there have been some unbelievable how many times they've burned this program down post Dan Mullen and how many poor decisions have been made. However, this is a new season, and you've spent $15+ million on this roster, and we're about to see what Mike McIntyre can do. And if he can save this football program and get some dubs, you should go 4-0. I don't understand why you've got too large a percentage of the fan base who doesn't even believe that they deserve to win. That's not even how I operate or think. Never has been. But it's this defeatist mentality that I don't understand. Then you let other people define you, which makes no sense. I'm not letting other people define me. But you need to think, without question, you should go 4-0. You out-recruit all four teams you play, and you out-recruit Arizona State by over 30 spots. You spent way more money in the portal than them, too. Now, I know they're coming off a big year. It's not like, and I give Dillingham credit, but it's not like they've done this 4 years in a row. So we'll see if they can sustain some success out in Tempe. But you're better. You should be bigger in the line of scrimmage. You should have more athletes. The only place that they're better is at quarterback. You should win that game at home. You should be 4-0, and Tennessee is beatable. I'm going to die on that hill. You should be 4-0, period, or people need to answer for their job. And then you should have an awesome opportunity. You should have 63,000 people there for Davis Wade Stadium against Tennessee at home for your fifth game of the year, which is September 27th. We welcome in Steve Robertson, Hail State Insider, the Boneyard Podcast, genespage.com, 247 Sports. Steve joins us on the Farm Bureau Insurance guest line. Steve, in the last 2 or 3 days, what's the one thing you've heard about this 2025 Mississippi State football team that jumped out at you?
Depth. I think that's probably the thing, talking to some people that actually, viewed the scrimmage, that know what they're talking about. No disrespect to anybody that went and just enjoyed, a sunny day in Starkville. But just the fact that you can rotate so many people and not have a big drop-off, and that was such a big problem last year, especially on the defensive side of the football. And I've said before that, Stone Blanton probably deserves a master's degree, considering the guards he had to fight through just to go make a tackle, and so I don't think this is going to be a trench warfare group that you're going to have to hold your breath every time they take the field. I think you're going to see a lot more, normal type play on the offensive and defensive lines, especially on the defensive line. What we had last year is probably as bad as anything in my lifetime. And
yes.
All due respect to everybody involved, there was zero depth. And injuries played a part in that. Discipline played a part in that. You lose Dink game one, and you ended up having to run a couple of guys off, and so that's all part of it. But at the end of the day, as the old adage goes, nobody wants to hear about the birth pangs. They just want to see the baby.
That's right.
They put an ugly baby out there on the field last year.
That's right. No one cares how hard you work. They just want results. So, that's a great way to frame that up. All right, Steve Robertson on the Out of Bounds show. More depth on defense. Is it fair to say that this is going to be Mike McIntyre's defense?
Yeah, I think it's a collaborative effort. I wouldn't want to discount what Paul Rhodes is contributing to this. You're talking to some of our defensive backs, and he's very involved with everything. And I think, again, you got to give Jeff Lovie some credit. He didn't just, quote, run it back with Coleman Hutzler. That was the thing we talked about on your show last year, about halfway through the year, that Hutzler was going to get another year. And there were a lot of people that were kind of hesitant to get on board with that. But I think you got to give Love credit. It's like, we're going to bring him back because we didn't have the personnel. And you and I both know it wasn't just about personnel. It was absolutely not just about personnel.
Sure.
Where there were some mistakes made, alignment decisions, calls, all that goes into it together. But then you go out and get two former Power 5 head coaches, Mike McIntyre and Paul Rhodes, to come help shore up your defense. That's a big boy move. And now we just got to have time to see if this is going to work out. But I think it also puts Leb in an interesting position, too, because you've got some veteran voices in the room that should you need to make a change next year, you've got a couple good candidates perhaps right there that could help.
All right, so here's what I'm hoping. I hope that Mike McIntyre and Paul Rhodes don't hold back in their communication and conversations with Jeff Levy, because obviously Jeff's got to get better quickly. And Coleman Hutzler's not a defensive coordinator, so I'm not even entertaining that. But when they have conversations, Mike and Paul have already made a lot of money, so they can basically say, in my opinion, they can say whatever in the hell they want, but that's actually good for Jeff Levy. How do you see it, Steve?
I absolutely agree with that. I mean, nobody at any level ever succeeds being surrounded by yes men. I mean, right. You need people that have a variety of ideas that are willing to open their mouth for the betterment of your organization. And I think that's what you have there. And, watching those guys in drills, we don't get to see a lot. I mean, they're very active. I mean, it's not like they're just sitting back with a clipboard and just charting plays. I mean, McIntyre will go out there and put his hands on somebody and say, okay, listen, this is how I want you to do it. And I think that's an important aspect of this. And I think when you have that level of expertise and experience available to you, you'd be doing yourself and your program a disservice by hoping they'd be quiet. And I just don't think that's the dynamic at all.
Okay, good. All right. So I think they've got a chance. I mean, they were god-awful. They finished 114th last year. I mean, God, if they finish 80th, Steve, I think, that's at least 3 more wins, even with the schedule. If McIntyre and Rhodes, plus all this portal talent, whereas, Steve, they've spent millions of dollars in the line of scrimmage and some other spots. With all of that, if they can just move to 80th in red zone scoring efficiency on the defensive side of the football, Steve, I think that's 5-7, and everybody gets to come back for another year. What do you think?
The stat that always jumps out to me is third down efficiency, right? Really on both sides, but mainly on defense. I mean, this team was so abysmal last year at getting off the field, and you need to give Levy and Chapin and those guys as many snaps as you can possibly get. And when they're going 3 and out, that doesn't help matters. But how many times last year? I mean, you look at that Arizona State game, right? You go out there and you have a absolutely terrible first half, but you look up with about 6 minutes to go in the fourth quarter, it's a 1-score game. You just got to get a stop. But instead, Arizona State just kind of runs down the field and just salts away the last 5:27. What happened? What conversation are we having in college football if Mississippi State gets a 3 and out and goes into Tempe and gets that game? I mean, it's a completely different dynamic. That's how important these things are. I mean, when teams had leads, and I look at Tennessee, I mean, and State went up there and was really an irritant to Tennessee. I mean, you knocked Nico out of the game, and State just wouldn't go away, right? And so they finally just said, okay, listen, we're just going to get behind this offensive line, and we're going to go victimize their defensive line. And they did, and they finally got that final push of separation. But State was so bad last year against the run. If you can just be decent, and everybody's like, well, how do you quantify decent? Middle of the pack in the SEC. If you're just decent against the run, you're going to have a much better football team because you're going to give your offense a lot more opportunities to have the football.
All right. Mississippi State fans, just, think about Mike McIntyre for the next week and a half. And he's the guy that's going to have to turn the corner with this thing. And Steve's right. If they just finish in the 80s, and then I think you're talking about a whole new ball game. Celebrate game day at Two Brothers Restaurant and Bar and Older Brother Bistro in Starkville. Amazing food and libations, great atmosphere. Two Brothers and Older Brother. We're visiting with Steve Robertson, Gene's Page, 247 Sports. Colonel Kang is your best poster, in my opinion, and he posted on Sunday, I think, on your board, that whoever plays quarterback has to run the football. I'm in 100% agreement with him. So I understand Blake Shapen or any quarterback could get hurt running the football. Do you agree, Steve, that Blake's got to run it some, regardless of his injury history, for Mississippi State to be successful and actually play 11 on 11 on offense?
Well, the first thing that I'll say is the esteemed Colonel will be absolutely thrilled that he was mentioned on the show on statewide radio today. But number two, yes, you can't play scared. You cannot. You got to run your offense, and you got to get everybody ready to run every component of it. And when you get in the red zone, maybe perhaps we can have a package. And that's one of the things I wrote about over the weekend. Maybe that's where Kamario Taylor gets an opportunity to make an impact on this offense. And you got to think, too, I mean, Shapeson's not going to be here next year.
Right.
And so any playing time that you get for Kamario and Luke Kromenhoek, not only does it help this year, it's an investment in next year. You can't let Blake get all the snaps. And so you also can't limit what you can do in the red zone because you're worried about Blake getting hurt. You can't.
Right.
You got to go play football. And you sign guys to play them. And listen, I see a lot of people out there, man, I hope we can redshirt Kamario.
Good Lord.
If we know that he's going to be here for 4 years, you don't know that, right? You got to go sign players that help you win football games, and then you got to put them in a position to help you win football games. And it's almost like kind of running a junior college program. You're not really building much anymore, right? You're playing year to year, because of the way the portal works. And so if Kamario Taylor is a red zone quarterback, gives Mississippi State a chance to get to a bowl game, you'd be a fool not to utilize that. Thinking about next year, because you may not get next year. You've got to go out there and take the hand that you're dealt, play it as best you can to win as many football games as you can this year.
All right. Who's the best? Is Fluff the most talented running back on the team?
I don't know that I'm ready to go that far just yet. I think he's the most physically imposing. I think, Booth probably has, a little more experience. And the thing early in the year last year, I just kind of questioned Booth's vision a little bit. There were times he would run up the backside of his own blockers, and when there were plays to be made, he got better with that as the year went along. I think a lot of that, too, is because it's the fastest defensive players he's ever played against. He had to grow up a little bit and acclimate, and I believe he's done that. I think you'll see Fluff have kind of a similar development arc this year. It's going to take him a few games to kind of get acclimated to the speed of the game in this conference. But I love that personnel group. And I think it's certainly the best on offense. It could prove to be the best personnel group on the entire team. And with these changes on the offensive line, I think you're going to see Jeff Lebby run the football a lot more.
Okay, so most improved group, defensive line and running back.
Well, I don't know how much more improved off the running backs are, because you traded Kevon Lee for Fluff Bothwell, which is a huge upgrade.
No kidding.
But let's be honest, it doesn't matter how much skill you have on offense when you can't stop the run. And so that's the biggest priority they had in the offseason is we have got to get some depth and got to get some talent on this defensive front. And they've done that. And again, we don't know how effective that's going to prove to be until you see an actual opponent, right? And it still may take you a couple weeks, right? I mean, all due respect to Southern Miss, and no one might be being disrespectful, but that's going to be a team play in its first game with a bunch of new faces, and it's going to be interesting. I should say that. Now they got some guys who transferred in from some Power 4 schools, along the offensive line that may be able to get in there and compete. I just worry if I'm Southern Miss, this is about depth. Especially with State having some depth on the defensive front. I think that war of attrition may end up favoring the Bulldogs. Not to say that Southern Miss won't be effective in their league. I think they will be. But I think this Mississippi State team, from a physicality standpoint, has got to go out there in game one and kind of exert themselves.
Okay. Steve Robertson, Gene's Page, 247 Sports. What about special teams? Kickers, punters, what's the word?
It's interesting. The punter competition, I thought post-spring that it was absolutely going to be Ethan Pulliam, and it still may be. But they brought in some guys that have pushed him a little bit. And competition is great for all of us, right? It makes us all bring our best effort. But with Kyle Ferry, I mean, I don't know if we've had a kicker that we've had as much faith in year to year. I mean, we've had, some guys who've come in, Ruiz comes in and Nick Barmera comes in, and those guys are good for a year or so. But Kyle Ferry has been a guy that Mississippi State fans have learned to count on. And, he's back again for another year. And he may end up being one of Mississippi State's most valuable players just because of the fact he's done it in this league. He's not scared. He wants the football in those situations. He wants to go make the big kick. He'd probably, I'll just say it anyway. He probably wouldn't want me to say this, but I can promise you the dream of his life is to go to Fayetteville and kick that game-winning kick to beat the Razorbacks. He cherishes those moments, the opportunity to go out there and do something of significance. And in years past, we've had some guys, all due respect to them, a little bit soft in that department, right? I mean, we've had some guys that you held your breath every time they took the field. When Kyle Ferry walks out there, I'm expecting 3 points, and I think most everybody connected to Mississippi State football feels that way.
Could be huge for, for Levy and McIntyre in this group as far as turning a game or two as the season unfolds. All right, so you and I are on the same page. 4-0, non-negotiable, host Tennessee, pack out Davis Wade for the first time since Leach won 9 games a couple years ago. Are we on the same page?
Yeah, for the most part. I mean, honestly, I think, that as we've talked about all summer, that game against Arizona State, I think, is the most significant. And like if Levy and Mississippi State lose that game, it's not going to be a surprise to anybody. But if you win that game, and you're certainly capable of winning that game, you get it at home. And again, outside of that dreadful start that was really of your making, not really. Arizona State didn't dictate terms in that respect. I mean, you had the bad scoop and score fumble that you gave up, allowed them to get separation. And you take care of your business, you got a chance to go 4-0. You really do. And not just two guys sitting here talking on the radio. I mean, when you begin to think about what it looks like on paper, you should be able to go do that. I think 3-1 is the worst-case scenario.
They're not
the worst-case scenario, but that's going to put you really behind the 8 ball trying to make a bowl game.
They had a really good year. They were not a dominant, loaded team by any stretch. I give Dillingham credit. He hit on Levitt, Scattaboo, the receiver, the edge rusher. Again, that's why it's never been easier to win in college football. This comes down to landing 6 to 8 players and totally changing the look of your team in one portal haul, which if you're good at what you do, you can do. Okay, what else are we hitting here? If you had to bet $100, who's the first quarterback that plays other than Shapen? Is it Camario Taylor or Cromanhawk from Florida State?
Yeah, I think it could be situational, right? I mean, like if you drive down there and you need, red zone QB power, I think I'm going to go with Camario, right? Because you got 4 games at a minimum to work with, right, and still preserve the red shirt. But, there may be a game where you get some separation and you want to save some wear and tear on Blake. I think Cromanhawk's probably the first guy that goes out. Maybe he takes over on a fresh series. And so I think it's somewhat situational. But I expect all 3 of these guys to play this year. I do. Maybe not extensively, but I think there is a role for each of them. And, again, you want to give some live reps to these younger guys that are going to be competing for the starting job next year. I don't think there's any question. And I think it's going to be difficult to go in the portal and get a quarterback at the end of this year because of what you've got coming back, unless somebody decides to leave, because you're like, hey, you've got these 2 guys here, and Camario Taylor's a Mississippi State high school legend, and so why would I go, I got 1 year left to play. Why would I go to Mississippi State when they've already got a portal quarterback and a young guy that's expected to be the future? And so any snap that those guys get is really just an investment in next year's quarterback competition. So you don't want to be in a situation where, Blake takes 99% of the snaps.
No.
And you get in the next, and all you've got is practice tape. I mean, you want to see what they can do against a real opponent.
And you've got 4 non-conference games where you should be able to see a lot of that. My God, against Alcorn, Camario should play 2 quarters. So, and possibly against Northern Illinois, a good quarter or so, or several series, just depending on what shakes out. All right, you and I will disagree on there. I think it's a major disappointment if Mississippi State doesn't beat Arizona State at home with the investment that they've made in Levy's staff and in the portal. We're talking millions and millions and millions of dollars. Now, you mentioned Hutzler. I was wrong. You were right last year as far as him staying.
I still haven't had my steak either.
I know. I still owe you. I got to take you to Restaurant Tyler or Taste. Actually, Taste has a really good filet and ribeye too, but Restaurant Tyler, wonderful steaks, 44 Prime and Commodore Bob's. Oh, Big E's over there by Starkville. My buddy Eric Hallberg has a damn good ribeye and a shrimp appetizer that's good. All right, something I didn't ask you about. Did your daughter choose Harvard Law School or another law school? What happened?
Yeah, she's living on Harvard Square. She woke up in Cambridge, Massachusetts this morning. So yeah, she's there, and we are over the moon excited for her. And it's dad. This is the thing that I think that a lot of people miss. It's like because a lot of times you kind of defer to the same sex parent, right? I mean, you know how that goes.
Sure.
It's like, I think sometimes you got to be daddy, right? And one of the things that I encouraged her is I said, you are among the elite because you are elite. Like you belong there. I don't want you to have this imposter syndrome where you're this small town girl from Mississippi. No, you're there because you are among the nation's most brilliant.
Yeah.
You're among the best and brightest.
Harvard
so
Law.
Just own that and claim it, and then let's go ahead and get all this other nonsense out of the way. And I told her too. I'm a firm believer in making good memories. And I told her, I said, the first day, which was yesterday, I said, you go and you find a little local shop and a little cafe, and you go have that meal, and you get whatever you want because you're going to remember that meal the rest of your life.
Yeah.
That's how significant that is. I said, your first memories at Harvard, you get to choose that. Go find a little local coffee shop within walking distance of your place and go have a meal. But remember, these are the days that last forever. Yeah. And you can't take any of them for granted. And so, I'm so incredibly excited for her. And now I've got 4 kids in 4 states, which, lends its own sense of anxiety, right?
Right.
Something should happen around the country. There's a good chance somebody could be impacted, But the reality of it is I never wanted my kids to stay under my feet. I didn't want to be, the South Mississippi land baron that had about, 10, 12 acres and you build a big house and then all the kids build around you. That's just not what I wanted for my kids. Other people did, and that's fine for them. But I wanted my kids to get out and experience life and do amazing things.
Steve's daughter started school at Harvard Law School this month. Very, very, and she was a national debate champion too.
9 times.
9 times the debate team at Mississippi State. Harvard Law School for Steve Robertson's daughter. All right, thanks, man. We'll talk soon, okay? All right, so Steve joined us on the Out of Bounds show, genespage.com. That was brought to you by, speaking of Mississippi State, she's a Mississippi State undergrad. Ranked number 1, the College of Business at Mississippi State University. Ranked number 1 best online MBA program by Best Value Schools. Check it out today, online. Dean Scott Graw and the team at the College of Business at Mississippi State University doing amazing things. Take a private tour of the College of Business at Mississippi State. We'll see you tomorrow.